I am anything but a pessimist, but the overwhelming conclusion drawn by people today in Struggle Street is that the world has gone mad, surrendering to minorities. HSBC, as most would know, is a British multinational universal bank, the largest bank in Europe by total assets. As of December 2021, total assets were US $2.9 trillion. I mentioned some months ago that Stuart Kirk was the bank's global head of responsible investing. He was first suspended for a speech he made last May this year, where he said, quote, "There's always some nut job telling me about the end of the world," unquote. He further said, quote, "A cancel culture destroys wealth and progress." Subsequently, he resigned. Apparently his comments, if you're to believe HSBC, had an impact on environmental, social and governance issues. Stuart Kirk had a 27-year unblemished record in finance, journalism and consulting. But on the 19th of May this year, in a considered speech, he argued that, quote, "Unsubstantiated, shrill, apocalyptic warnings are always wrong." Christiana Figueres, the former head of the United Nations Climate Secretariat, denounced Stuart Kirk's remarks as abhorrently outrageous. This is the same woman who in 2014, when she was part of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, said, quote, "This is the first time in the history of mankind that we're setting ourselves the task of intentionally, within a defined period of time, changing the economic development model that's been reigning for the last 150 years since the Industrial Revolution," unquote. A dumb warning in 2014. But when someone like the banker Stuart Kirk warns that unsubstantiated, shrill, apocalyptic warnings are always wrong, according to Figueres, the remarks are abhorrently outrageous. So another leading figure fired for questioning the climate change catechism, banker Stuart Kirk, after a 27-year unblemished record. The $2.9 trillion company HSBC didn't have the guts to tolerate a different opinion. Kirk's problem? Telling the truth, contrary to the central dogma of environmental, social and governance investing, which holds that it's the duty of finance and business to save the world from a planetary catastrophe. As one writer said to me yesterday, quote, "How on earth are we educated people going to cope with this plethora of unbalanced interviews promoting the need to drive everything on Earth to an emissions zero target?" Well, says my retired lawyer correspondent from New Zealand, good evening to you, Alan, I know you're watching. He said, "I'm at wit's end. So are my friends, who understand from a basis of both truth and education that a giant mistake is being made by our numbskull politicians. What a hole we are in now, right over our heads," unquote. Well, even people like the Santos chief executive, Kevin Gallagher, are singing from the net zero hymn sheet while saying, without mentioning coal, of course, but with his focus on gas, quote, "We need investment in new supply to support our existing energy system, as well as the decarbonisation projects that will enable an orderly transition rather than the chaos we're seeing today," unquote. Well, translated, that means we're having a bet each way. It means that these so-called decarbonisation projects, which are renewable energy, are producing chaos. And therefore we, quote, "need investment in new supply." Like the rest of the world, that means building coal-fired power plants.